When you hear the word seasoning, your brain probably jumps straight to salt, pepper, spices, or that final sprinkle before a dish hits the table. But if you stop and think about it for a second, the word itself sounds strange. Seasoning. It sounds like it should have something to do with spring, summer, fall, or winter. Yet seasoning food has nothing to do with weather, climate, or what time of year it is. So why do we call it seasoning at all? This is one of those everyday words we use constantly without ever questioning it. To understand it, we need to step away from the kitchen for a moment and go back in time. So today, let's uncover why is it called seasoning? And once you start digging into it, you realize the word seasoning actually carries centuries of history, older meanings and ideas that go far beyond food. Let's get into it, right here, on History of Simple Things. Before seasoning ever touched food, the word season already existed. It comes from the Latin word satio, which meant to sow, as in planting seeds. From that idea came sationem, referring to planting time or the proper moment to do something. Over time, this evolved into the Old French word saison, which meant a suitable time or proper moment. Only later did it become strongly associated with the 4 seasons of the year. So originally, season didn't mean spring or winter. It meant the right time. This idea of timing, of knowing when something is ready or appropriate, is the key to understanding why seasoning exists as a word at all. When the verb to season emerged in Middle English, it didn't just apply to food, it meant to bring something to the right condition. You could season wood by drying it properly. You could season a person by giving them experience. You could season a piece of metal by treating it so it became stronger or more usable. In other words, seasoning was about preparation, not flavor. Adding salt or spices to food was simply one way of seasoning it, of making it ready, balanced, and fit to eat. Long before modern refrigeration, food didn't taste the way it does now. Meat could be gamey. Vegetables were often bitter. Grains could taste flat or dull. Salt and spices weren't just flavor enhancers, they were essential tools. Salt preserved food. Spices masked unpleasant flavors. Herbs made simple or aging ingredients more enjoyable. So when people added these things, they weren't just making food tastier, they were making it proper, safe, and complete. Seasoning food meant bringing it into the right state for eating. That's why the word stuck. Today, people often think seasoning means adding lots of spices. But historically, seasoning was about balance. A dish could be seasoned with just salt, or with vinegar, or even with thyme. In fact, letting food rest or age, like cheese or cured meat, was also considered seasoning. The goal wasn't intensity, it was harmony. If food tasted flat, it wasn't in season. If it tasted balanced, it was properly seasoned. This is where seasoning becomes philosophical. Because seasoning was about knowing when and how much, it became associated with wisdom. A seasoned cook wasn't someone who used the most spices, but someone who knew restraint. That's why we still say things like a seasoned chef, a seasoned traveler, and a seasoned professional. None of those people have anything to do with weather or spices. They're called seasoned because they've been shaped by time and experience. They've reached the right condition. The food term and the life term come from the same idea. So how did we end up associating the word season with spring, summer, fall, and winter? That meaning came later. As agriculture became more structured, seasons started referring to recurring times of planting and harvesting. Eventually, it became tied to climate patterns. But the older meaning, proper time or condition, never disappeared. Seasoning food kept the original meaning alive. So while seasons describe when something happens in the year, seasoning describes when something is ready. Seasoning isn't just flavor, it's timing. Think about how often seasoning depends on timing. Salt added too early can ruin texture. Salt added too late won't penetrate. Spices toasted too long burn. And herbs added too soon lose aroma. Seasoning isn't just what you add, it's when you add it. That connection to timing is ancient and intentional. The phrase "season to taste perfectly" reflects the original meaning of the word. It doesn't tell you exactly how much salt or spice to add. It tells you to adjust until the food feels right, until it reaches its proper state. That's seasoning in its purest form. Food isn't the only thing we season. Cast iron pans are seasoned, firewood is seasoned, and timber is seasoned. In all these cases, seasoning means preparing something over time so it works better. A seasoned pan cooks better. Seasoned wood burns cleaner. And seasoned timber lasts longer. The meaning never changed, only the context did. Language usually simplifies over time, yet seasoning survived with its deeper meaning intact. Why? Because cooking is one of the few daily activities where judgment, timing, balance, and experience all matter at once. The word perfectly captured that idea, and no better replacement ever came along. Calling it flavoring would miss the point. Calling it spicing would be too narrow. Seasoning is about making something right. The next time you season a dish, you're doing something humans have done for thousands of years. You're not just adding flavor, you're adjusting, correcting, and preparing food until it reaches its ideal state. That's why the word sounds poetic, because it is. Seasoning isn't about the seasons outside. It's about the moment inside the kitchen, when everything finally comes together. So why is it called seasoning when it has nothing to do with seasons? Because long before seasons meant weather, they meant timing. Because seasoning was never about spices, it was about readiness. And because the simplest words often carry the deepest history. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.